chimpanzees, which of course are our closest ape relatives, the females leave away from the natal group, and the males seem to need their mother's attention all the way up into adulthood. And what is very interesting to me is that if you look at Stone Age human societies, it is exactly the same. It is the males that stay around the men, that stay and set up homes close to where they were born, and the females who go off, the women that go off, they marry, and they go off and they join their husband's kind of village or husband's kind of homestead. And I just think that's fascinating, that we as human beings should have evolved like that. I don't know why we have. And apparently if you do a survey of sort of international relationships, so where, say, an American man has met a South African girl, or a British girl has met a French man, if you do a survey, it's not 100% true, but the majority will be that the female has moved off to live in the country where her husband was born. Isn't that interesting? Even in modern society, obviously it does change and it's not a fixed rule, but there is that sort of predisposition in us, which I think is fascinating. And I've certainly observed it in the villages out here, where the men will set up homes next to their parents, and obviously they will get married and their wives will move in there. Well, there have been elephants around here. Tony, I'm laughing not because of your question, but because of the image it's conjured up. You'd say, how social are warthogs, and do they ever herd like buffalo? I'm just trying to imagine a herd of 1,000 pigs coming streaming across the plains. I don't know why it's such an amusing image, but it is. Brian's in hysterics. Tony, it doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen because they are, remember we just had that discussion at the Karula sighting about the size of various herbivores. They're too small. They would become much too obvious if they were in big herds, and therefore much easier to catch. And everything likes to eat a warthog, including human beings. They're absolutely delicious. And so, no, they don't form herds. You'll find the largest sounders will probably be 2 sows, maybe 3 sows and their related offspring. Otherwise, no, they won't be in groups other than that. They've become too obvious. I mean, that sounder, for example, there, and the 5 that we see on Leadwood, and the 6 or so that we see up near Buffalo's Cutline, they all go into termite mounds at night. They all share a burrow within a termite mound, and obviously if there's a big herd of them, they can't really do that. I would love to see a herd of 500 warthogs. Jamie, the elephant whisperer, has found more elephants. Let's go and have a look at them.
Quite an interesting afternoon, despite at best efforts to get across to that lioness. We keep being, what's the word, surprised, happily surprised by elephant herds. In this case, a couple of young bulls full of nonsense. Jilly, watching in York. You're watching with your mother Margaret, and apparently she's wondering, Margaret's wondering, why it is that some male elephants are with the herd whilst others are rogue. And the male and female dynamic within elephants is really, really interesting. So for the most part, an elephant herd consists of adult females and then young males that haven't hit puberty yet. Once they hit puberty and become sexually mature, then they will actually move off on their own and move about either with other bulls or completely solitary. What will sometimes happen though is if a male is in an area with the females, he might meet up with them just for a little bit of company, maybe even out of habit to a degree, just spend a bit of time with other elephants. And for the most part, that is, if not welcomed, then tolerated by the females. If, however, a female is in estrus, so she's ready to mate, then what you will find is that an elephant herd has lots and lots of males in attendance, or quite a few males in attendance, usually one large bull of around over 30 years old. It's only really at about 30 years old that a male elephant is big enough and strong enough to be able to compete for access to the females. Now, these teenage boys that we have in front of us, all three of them a relatively similar age, and if I had to guess at how old they were, I would say they would be coming close to teenagers in elephant terms, maybe around 10 or so years old, possibly a little bit younger, but that sort of region. Already they're starting to show signs of the not imminent separation, but a future separation, hanging out together and away from the rest of the herd. Little tusks just starting to grow. I suspect that this, I don't know, obviously, just because of the area that we're in, I suspect that this is the elephant herd that we've seen relatively often around Buffelshoek Dam. It has 3 young males that have performed the most incredible antics for us before. We've seen them climb all over termite mounds, lie down in the middle of the road. I saw a pile of 3 elephants lie on top of each other at one point. So this could well be them. And with males of this sort of age, the testosterone levels just starting to creep up, just like with teenage boys. So they've got plenty of energy and exuberance and skills to practice at the same time. There's one at the back rolling, already starting to perform, unfortunately very much behind some thick bushes. There we go. Right down flat, possibly having a nap, but I think just enjoying himself. He was rolling with his legs in the air earlier. Unfortunately, if I reposition now, all I'm going to do is startle the other 2 and upset them, which obviously I don't want to do. I can almost guarantee it. Inching their way closer. Oh, look at this crazy one. Feeding off the tree whilst lying down. Hello, boy. Oh, you're a girl. No wonder. Sorry, didn't mean to insult you. You're a girl. Young male in front and then a young female. That's interesting. Don't often see young females sparring with males. No, it is a young male. Okay. Sorry, just some strange shaping there, but it is 2 young males. I was going to say, I don't think I've ever seen a young female elephant tackle a male cousin. Very seldom happens. So a brief show of strength before they went their separate ways. Somebody moving through. What are you? Elephants are a bit crazy, you know. Doing all kinds of strange things. There we go. Tussle time. Showing off for the cameras. Tail's a bit stiff. Oh, and the one on the right, quite clearly a bit larger than the one facing us. He is now thinking about attempting to intimidate us since he did lose the battle. Although the prospect of lunch also quite attractive. Hello, boy. No, maybe going to go tackle the other one. He is now up and on his all 4 feet again. Yes, maybe I'll have better luck with you, pushing you around. What will be nice for these young males when it does come time for them to leave the herd is that they will actually be able to enjoy each other's company. Oh dear, today is just not your day, is it, buddy? Lost that battle as well. Perhaps you should pick them more carefully. I agree, Andreen. I think that these eddies do look to be in particularly good condition. Plenty of flesh around their bones, their spines are not prominent. So they've done well for themselves. It is a good-looking group. Hey boy, what do you think? You think you're handsome? I think you're very handsome. Yes, I do. Very handsome boy. Now I think if this is the group that I'm thinking of, and of course I can't be 100% certain, I haven't looked closely enough at individual nicks and tears on the ears of each elephant in the herd that I'm thinking of. But if it is this group, what Andreen is saying is absolutely true. It has the biggest female elephant that quite possibly I have ever seen. Oh, a good back scratch there as well. She walked past me the other day, very close to the vehicle, and I couldn't believe how large she was. Are you going to come pick a battle with me again now? Hello. I think you're handsome too, for what it's worth. But I'm afraid I'm even less intimidated than your buddies. Yes, you have some of that sickle bush. This is displacement behavior, what he's doing, pretending to feed. Hello. Yes, and what more do you have to say to me? Oh, yes, you go and pretend to eat that sickle bush some more. Kelly, in Wisconsin, you were wondering how long do elephants sleep for. When they're younger, they actually sleep for quite an extended period of time. So they'll have a sort of a half an hour to a 45-minute nap several times a day. And they will even lie down. Yes, you throw the branch at me. Throw the branch in the air. Sorry, Kitty, I'll get back to you in a moment. Hello. Now you found us. Now you found it interesting. An interesting approach. Because the termite mound provides a little bit of extra height. There we go, displacement behavior again. Reaching up. Look at me, I'm not doing anything, I'm just feeding. See, can't you see my trunks in the air? See? Didn't touch a thing. Now some actual feeding. Grass just proving to be too tempting. So Billy, in terms of how long a baby elephant will sleep, they'll have several naps during the day. An adult doesn't need to sleep for such extended periods of time. Sorry, I'm so distracted by his antics. It's highly entertaining. Because he still wants to come back and intimidate us, but he's just not quite, it just isn't working. His method hasn't paid off. And now his ego is terribly bruised because we haven't been intimidated and he's lost 2 battles to his slightly larger cousins. Oh, there we go again. So Gilly, an adult elephant, will nap for, I've seen them sleep, not just nap, I've seen them be fast asleep for 20 minutes or more at a time, but they don't need to do it as frequently, and they'll do it at sort of arbitrary times of the day. They're still active at night, although they might not cover as large a distance. An older cousin now has moved in and is enjoying a dust bath. Kicking up the sand or loosening the sand with his heel and his toe, and then using the trunk to spray it all over himself. Elephants, when they do sleep, that's actually it is an older female. So she's just come to instill a sense of discipline in our naughty youngster, who is now back once again. Hi. You're very scary. You're big and scary. Shame, I almost want to just let him win just for his dignity. I'm sorry, boy. One day you will be big and scary, but not yet. Give it a few years. How's about that? I often think that we provide such a source of entertainment for young elephants at this age. They get a bit bored, maybe the adults not being terribly exciting. Just if you're wondering what the bleeping is, we're just making preparations in case we need to VR a segment, so the virtual reality ball of GoPros that sits on the front of our vehicle. Chandra is just preparing it for use in case he does decide to come back once again and intimidate us. That's what we're going to use. So a ball of GoPros that allows for a almost 360 degree view of the surroundings. You can look up into the sky and down the ground, all around you. He's actually seriously distracted now by after his failed intimidation. Now, X-Ranga has said, imagine if elephants blushed and how funny it would be to see them sort of flush bright red once they've embarrassed themselves with a failed attempt at intimidation. I know, it's very anthropomorphic of me to say that he's upset and his ego is bruised by the fact that he didn't scare us away. But I think just looking at his body behavior, it kind of felt very true to life as to how he was feeling at this time, trying to be that big, scary male elephant that he knows he will one day be. Unfortunately, not just yet. And I think if elephants could blush, he might well be blushing. He's distracted now, though. Luckily, as a teenager, his stomach has distracted him. Now, Paul Dandam, you are one of our new viewers. You wanted to know if the elephant wants us to move away. And the answer is, it's a bit more complex. Just to let you know, when we are with elephants and when we are enjoying an elephant sighting, we're constantly reading and assessing their body behavior. If he had been an adult female giving me those signs, if it had been a female that had come and stood in front of the car and shook her head and maybe just looked at us a little bit like she was upset, we would immediately have left the sighting. Obviously, we don't want to have any kind of negative or undue impact on the animal's behavior. What he is doing is different. What he is doing is basically childish in a way. He's got that spike of hormones and he's trying to intimidate us. Now that's fine. It's actually quite funny when he's young like this, and young males do it all the time. Sometimes even tiny babies do it as a way of entertaining themselves when the adults are being boring. Very important not to teach them that that's a way to scare away vehicle, because then it becomes a game. And you can imagine if he learned now that the next time he sees a vehicle, if he runs at it, the vehicle goes away. And then when they grow older, it's a very different thing with a 6-ton elephant that now decides to come barreling down the road. So with a breeding herd like this, I take my cues from the females. So the body language of the females and the attitude of the herd as a whole. Not a naughty little troublemaker who has scarpered after his failed attempt at intimidation. I think let's try once again to find that lioness, see if she's around. I'm hoping the Ellies haven't scared her too far away. While I do that, let us find out what James's afternoon, or how James's afternoon is going.
Thankfully, that mongoose stuck its head back out underneath from outside the mound there. It did disappear as you came live, but there it is. There's a whole little troop of them, and they're scuttling between their mound, into which they shall shortly go for the whole night, and a big pile of sticks beyond that. And they're foraging around there. Now, in terms of motherhood, of course, the mongoose have a very similar situation to the wild dogs and the wolves that I think many of you will be familiar with. An alpha pair, where both male and female, well, I don't suppose, in fact, the whole troop helps to raise the youngsters, The male doesn't have too much to do with it, but he and the female dominate, and they will be the only pair within the troop of mongoose to have little baby mongoose, which are called pups. There is an alpha female and an alpha male in the mongoose pack. And then there are quite a lot of birds around here, most of which have unfortunately seemed to have absconded. There were some buffies, some red-billed buffalo weavers, there were some magpie shrikes, there was a fork-tailed drongo, there was a red-billed hornbill. Oh, sorry, let's go back to Jamie and the elephant.
We are now in absolute full adolescent tantrum mode. Stop it. Yes. Yes, you. Yes, you. Walk away. Come on now. I'm sorry. He is absolutely hilarious. Yes, boy. He is trying absolutely everything that he can. You are so naughty. You are so naughty. Now don't you start calling your mom for trouble that I didn't cause. The female's ignoring him completely. The reason I've stopped, I was actually trying to leave, but he tried to chase me down the road. And as I said, that's not a habit that I've kept long. This is extraordinary. I'm sorry, boy. I can't let you win this. I can't. We're going to go, I promise. Enough now. Come on, babe. I promise you, if you just let us leave peacefully, we are going to leave. But I can't let you chase me down the road, because it's not going to be funny when you triple that size. Yes. Have some lunch. Have some late lunch. Okay, are we good? No, not really. This is still displacement behavior. See that back foot sliding backwards and forwards there? Okay. It's still an unsettled Ellie. Here he comes again. Restless body language. And the female's completely aloof to the antics of this young male. Should we try and drive away again, Jandre? We know what's going to happen. He's going to come dashing down the road in front of us. He came running from far away to come and chase us. Yes, kicking up a dust storm. I'm very scared, boy. I'm terrified. I promise. I promise I'm very scared. I'm just frozen. And Joyce, you were wondering about how young I think, or how old I think this young male is. And I guessed at around 10. I actually think he might be slightly younger. He's now got an itchy foot that he's scratching on a log. He's too sweet. He is so funny. So Joyce, I'm guessing at about 9 or 10, maybe even a bit younger, behaving very childishly. It's unusual. Very often a large female would have stepped in by now and actually disciplined him. Yes. Now, with behavior like this, obviously I don't want to respond aggressively. I don't want to scare him. I just want to teach him that this isn't really appropriate behavior, because you can imagine how terrifying that's going to be when he's 5-6 meters at the shoulder. Oh, my goodness, now stop this. You tantrum. You're being a child. Yes, you are incredibly intimidating, and I see what you did to that tree, and I've acknowledged it, and we're going to leave you now, and you're not going to try and chase us down the road. All right. Watch him. As I go forward, he's going to chase us. I'm going, boy. We're going, boy. Shame. I must say, this is the longest I've ever experienced an adolescent tantrum like this, so we're going to move really slowly away from him. And while we do, I'm going to send you back over to James. I don't want to play this game with you, boy. I'm trying to leave. I'm trying to leave without you thinking that you're chasing me. There we go. There we go. That's better. There we go. No, still thinking about chasing us. Yes, you push that tree down. Okay, I think we might have accomplished what we set out to do. He appears to have... He's content with that line drawn in the sand. So now, I'm going to send you back across to James.
It sounds like that elephant has been behaving in, well, probably for his mother, an abominable fashion, but for all of us, a really wonderful fashion. So there is the sunset, beginning to set, really, and it's quite a long way from setting, but just a lovely picture there as it dips towards the western Drakensberg horizon. Isn't it lovely, Brian?
It is magnificent.
Yes. Fantastic. That's all really I have to say about that. You can see the rays slowly being dissipated by the clouds. And I think maybe this front of ours is finished, although there was some rain predicted, believe it or not, for this next week, apparently on Tuesday. I've no doubt that the weather report will now deny ever having saying that. Apparently there's a clicking noise. Sorry about that, everyone. I don't know what the clicking noise is. Is it still there, Rebecca? Sorry about this, everyone. Just sorting out a couple of audio issues. There we go. We think. Anyway, that's the sunset. We'll get the rest of it probably from the fireside chat, which will be marvellous. Let's head towards Sydney's Dam and see what we can find there before Jamie finds some more elephants. Rebecca, I'm really not sure what's happening with the audio. There's the crowned lapwing. Let's quickly have a look at that. It's now flown away. Sorry everyone, there's a setup for the fireside chat going on in my ear. And there we have a crowned lapwing. Very underrated bird, fascinating because of course it is very well adapted to the dry times that are about to come to us. What will happen is that as it gets drier, so it will move increasingly into these sodic areas, and because it is a desert adapted bird, it is able to deal with having almost no water at all, and it's got a specialized salt gland on the top of the nose there, from which it can exude salt, so it doesn't need to drink. Just like, I mean, unlike most other birds, it has no need to go to water because its kidneys and nose are able to excrete all the salt that it doesn't want, which I think is a remarkable adaptation, which allows it to live in much drier areas than most other birds. The humble, ubiquitous and common crowned lapwing, and that is why it is both ubiquitous and common. The impala continue to make an enormous noise around here. roaring away as they rut. I mean, mating is probably happening as we speak during the course of the night. They're through there somewhere. But mating is going on now. But it won't happen in the afternoon. It won't happen in the light of the day. Right. I'm just going to pop up to Sydney's Dam and see what's going on there. We really have been very lucky this afternoon with all those elephants and, of course, the great Queen herself. Right. And absolutely astoundingly, Jamie has found an elephant.
I'm almost at the point now where I think I might give up on our lion search, because at every turn we encounter another one of our pachyderm friends. In this case, a beautiful female and her calf. And yes, those of you who have noticed it, there is a collar around her neck. That will be for research purposes, for tracking. It might work off radio frequencies. It might also be sending GPS coordinates of her location at regular intervals. And essentially what that does is it helps to monitor elephant behavior. Now, I don't know exactly which research organization is behind that collar. There are several. And it is something that is entirely for the benefit for the future of the species as a whole. Hello, gorgeous girl. Enjoying a drink at Buffelshoek Dam and herding her little calf, who actually wasn't quite finished drinking. Thank you very much, Mum. Telling her it's time to move on. You see how much she is secreting from her temporal glands. So something has stressed her out at some point. Probably, let's be honest, it is most likely an encounter with a lioness lying up somewhere close to the dam. As you know, elephants are not a huge fan of encountering predators. And will usually go out of their way to chase them. And that's probably what she did with that lioness. I don't see any sign of her. I'm not 100% where Sam left her. We are going to leave this female to keep moving off to the south. Now that collar, although it looks uncomfortable, does not really hinder her in any way. And as I said, it will be, the information that it will provide will be of enormous benefit to researchers and conservationists. But I'm just, because of all, she's not showing any signs of stress towards us. In fact, she's not showing any signs of stress at all. But we have spent quite a considerable period of the day with elephants, despite my best attempts to try and find us a lioness. Let's just see if she's not around the dam. Might be lying up to the side. I'm not 100% certain where exactly Sam left her. I think James might know, so I'm going to try and get hold of him on the Game Drive comms and just double check with him. Let's see what Buffelshoek Dam has to offer. James for Jamie. James, do you know exactly where Sam had that lioness this morning? Copy that. Perfect. Thanks. I thought that's what he'd said. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. There's lots of Ndlovu around, so I think there's a chance they might have chased her. Okay, let's go investigate. We've got her location down. They've told me where to go. So let us go and see if she's still about, or if the elephants have sent her dashing off into the bushes. And judging by the amount of elephant dung and the amount of tracks around here, the elephants have certainly been about. Now, in theory, where she should be is right along this road, not too far from where we are now. Let's just double check this dip. I think it's the Balanites tree just a little bit further to the east. The Balanites tree, of course, being a torchwood or a green thorn or even a Y-thorn. Lots of different names for one of my favorite species of trees. Go through nice and slowly. Just to see if she's not hiding in a drainage line. She could well have moved during the day. She might have moved into the drainage line itself. As I mentioned earlier, if she is around there, if she is in a drainage line, if her tracks indicate that she's going there, I'm not going to follow her just by the description of what she was looking like. There's a chance that she might be looking for a potential den site. So if she's not here, then we will, and her tracks don't continue along a road, then we will leave her be. I don't see any sign of her. This is the tree that she was underneath. There's tracks coming through here. This is the Balanites tree. Tracks go along here. No sign of her. Nope. Oh, and just a quick update. While we search, I know you were enjoying the Mother's Day sighting, a very special Mother's Day sighting of Karula and her cubs this afternoon with James. An update on one of Karula's previous offspring. Quarantine is on. Whoopsie daisy. Well, seems an appropriate time to stop and to look and to talk. Quarantine is on Torchwood. So one of Karula's previous young sons, who's now a young male, a young adult male, he still hasn't quite fully dispersed away from his mother's area, but he's just to the east of us on Torchwood with a kudu kill up a tree, doing very well for himself. No sign of our lioness here. Now, this is a very special Mother's Day show, and I was hoping to find her for you just because she does look as though, or apparently she looks as though she is pregnant and potentially with the birth being imminent. Now, if she does give birth somewhere in this region, then we will leave her, we'll treat her just as we treated Karula. We'll give her the space to den and to keep those cubs secret and safe for the first few weeks of life. And it's only when she starts to bring them out to the rest of the pride that we will view them. No sign of her here. I can't say that I'm terribly surprised. I suspected that that might be the case with the elephants about. I just want to make sure that she isn't somewhere in this vicinity, maybe just a little bit further along the road. While I do, Jean-Ray gave you the briefest glimpse of that glorious sky, but James has a far nicer view, so let's have a look at the sunset from his side.
Well, we've heard the story of Jamie looking for the lioness before. I think she's going to find another 7,000 elephants before she manages to get anywhere near that lioness who has, as she says, probably been chased off by the elephants all over the place. We're here at Sydney's Dam, and there is the sun, of course, which we've shown you already. And then as Brian pans off to the right over the vista that is Lake Sydney, there were some waterbuck. They have absconded, unfortunately. There's some guinea fowl, and there's some elephants making an enormous noise off inside there. And remember, the Talamati pride was around here I think this morning actually, and so maybe those elephants have discovered the Talamati pride, but they've now kind of calmed down and disappeared and gone off to wherever it is that they're going for their evening snifter. We are going to begin to wind our way down towards Quarrenton clearings so that we might prepare ourselves for the fireside chat in dedication to mothers around the world. Not so, Brian? Yes. We'll go via Aubrey's Road and see what happens there. It's an absolutely glorious evening. It started off pretty, pretty glum, really. Fairly substantial cloud cover. Just checking the tyres. One of them looks a little bit flat, but it's okay. We're all right. There's also quite a powerful smell of oil coming off her jigger. But that's not that unusual. A Land Rover drinks oil like a small child drinks Fanta grape. I'm sure you get Fanta grape in other parts of the world. Ubiquitous drink here, possibly toxic enough to spray on crops, a bit like Roundup, but fit for human consumption apparently. I think we've seen him. There she is, sitting under the tree there. Look. Doesn't know what to do now. She's in two minds. Well, he's in two minds. Is it a male or female? It's a little male. In two minds because he's in the only bit of cover. So if he wants to move away from us, he's going to have to break cover and then disappear and find some more cover. So he's in two minds as to whether we found him or not. There we go. He's decided we're not too much of a threat. Isn't he lovely? They're actually really impressive, I think. That's great. He knows we've seen him, but he kind of doesn't want to admit it to himself. So he's just sort of pretending to nonchalantly walk away towards the next thicket where he can seek some cover. We watch this rather confiding little fellow. Regina, you want to know the local people around here are matriarchal. We were chatting about matriarchal societies. They're not. No, they're in fact fairly patriarchal to the extent that just about all of the chiefs around the area are men. There is one culture, the Paddy culture, that has a tradition of, what do we call it, a sort of female royalty, and that is the Paddies, and they've got Queen Mojaji, the Rain Queen, and that's a hereditary title that still exists to this day, but all the chiefs under her seem to be men, largely. There are very few female chiefs in the country, and there is certainly a very patriarchal attitude amongst most South African societies, both European or white and black, so very patriarchal. I'm trying to think, that said, I mean, if you want to get anything done in any of the villages out here, you go to the women. It's a fascinating thing where, while there's lion tracks here, but I think they're from 2 nights ago when they were wandering through here. If you want anything done in any of the villages out here, you find the women and they sort everything out. They will be the ones running the orphanages, looking after the old age homes, starting the projects, doing all of that sort of community development stuff. And so while I guess they're nominally patriarchal and the leadership is all men, anybody who gets anything done is a woman. There's a tawny eagle up there, and I just want to stop. It's not going to be a great picture because he's quite far away, but what is nice is the identifying marker on this tawny eagle. And if we look at him, what I would like you to look at, and brown eagles are quite difficult to identify in summer. I mean, in winter it's obvious that he's a tawny eagle because he's the only brown eagle that we still have here. Look at that very distinctive chocolate brown V that he has on his back. You see that? Those are his wing primaries, or the leading edge of his wing. and that's very distinctive of a tawny eagle. None of the other eagles have that. So if you ever see that, and you're here in summer, and you could confuse a tawny for a Wahlberg's or a steppe or a booted or a lesser spotted, you'll know that's a tawny eagle because he's got that very distinctive V on the back of his neck. Very nice. It's a silent, still, peaceful evening. I suppose Brian and I are still very much on the high from our leopard cub sighting, aren't we, Brian? Yes. All right, we're going to head down to the fireside at a great speed. Let's head across to Jamie. I don't think she's got any elephants this time, but she might have a lion at some stage.
Unfortunately, I'm very sorry to disappoint you, but there's no lioness and no sign of any lioness, but there is a glorious sunset, which is something equally wonderful, just different. I'm planning on driving along the fire break. I haven't found any tracks of her coming out, so I strongly suspect that she's gone into that drainage line. I'm not all that excited to go following a heavily pregnant lion as it starts going into semi-darkness on foot into a drainage line. We shall leave her be for now and follow up again tomorrow morning. Now, we spoke a bit with that elephant, the collar. We spoke a bit about research being done in this particular area. And me and my cat, you were wondering with respect to the DRC, or the Djuma research camp, not to be confused with the Democratic Republic of Congo, but the camp in which most of our staff live, the DRC. You were wondering if any research actually happens there, or if it's just a camp that we have taken over. And the answer is research did used to happen there, but for now it is a camp that we have just taken over with. The only research really that goes on from our side is researching into our different fields of expertise. So Jean-Ray looks at, from what I understand, Jean-Ray looks at lots of different fancy cameras and learns about them. He's nodding pretty much in agreement. We look into different animal behaviors, try and stay on top of the latest research that is being published. But that's the sole equivalent, really, of the research that happens at DRC. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that could qualify as research. Not really. Certainly insight into animal behavior or human behavior around the camp. But I'm not sure that that qualifies as scientific research. And we certainly do not have a normal control group with which to compare ourselves. I'll show you something quickly while we're here. There's a civet off to our right. A civet, a collection of civet feces. It's called feces because a civet's diet consists of a combination of arthropods, in particular millipedes, and there you go, Jean-Ray giving you a perfect image of the exoskeletons of multiple millipede victims of this particular civet, and then some fresher stuff at the back. The exoskeletons go white over time. There's some dung beetle casings, shells. What on earth do you call it? Wing casings. There you go. And then bits of berries and fruit in there as well. So it is essentially a latrine. A latrine is where an animal of a predatory or a omnivorous nature deposits their feces or their scat. So hyenas have latrines. Herbivores, on the other hand, have middens. But its official name is a civetry, and that is where a civet will regularly use that as essentially civet Facebook. Just we've spoken before about middens being that kind of thing. It's civet Facebook. Basically what he does is he or she comes along every night, deposits their feces. It's the equivalent of updating status, whether or not they are reproductively ready, or basically, essentially what we use social media for. Let us continue on our way. We need to start making our way back closer to quarantine to be in time for fireside chat. Otherwise, they're going to have to continue on without us. And in fact, Chandra, you and I are running very late now. We probably need to leave this beautiful sunset.
So pretty.
I know it's very pretty, Chandra.
So pretty.
It is very pretty. The clouds are lovely. Yes, I'm sorry. I have to drag you away. I feel guilt. First I denied Chandra the leopard cub sighting, and now I've dragged him away from the sunset.
You treat me better than James does.
Okay, I'm glad to hear it. Since we are chatting a little bit about Mother's Day, and of course I'm not sure if my mum is watching, I hope that she is, because I would really like to wish an extraordinary woman a happy Mother's Day. But Naomi, you were wondering if our mothers enjoy nature as much as we do, and if we ever take them out on drive. And the answer is my mom actually grew up spending a lot of time in game reserves, and she's an ex-ballet dancer. She's a retired ballet dancer. So she didn't go quite to the same field. I'm just ignoring the elephant that's there, because we do actually really have to start moving, and there is another elephant. So we're just going to ignore it. So Naomi, yes, my mom does enjoy nature, and I have taken her out on game drive with me before. I've even taken her out walking, where she specifically said to me, Jamie, the one thing I don't want to see on foot is elephants, and a herd of about 60 elephants promptly walked in front of us. But there was nothing I could do. It was a mistake. Yes, hello, Ellie. We're going to just keep driving. We've got to start heading back, and we're going to leave poor James. Okay, I promise you there is an elephant there. I'm not lying. There, you see? There's an elephant, big grey thing. Got big flappy ears and large tusks. She's beautiful, and we have to go. I have to drag myself like I dragged Chandra away from that sunset. I have taken my mom out on drive many times. She particularly enjoys time spent with elephants. She loves elephants. Her father, my grandfather, was the one from whom I inherited the Stevenson Hamilton books that I've been occasionally reading from. He was a game warden. He in particular was as fascinated by nature as I am, and in fact, much like me, I think only felt truly himself whilst in the African bush. So my mom as a child did go to visit many game reserves in her time. Chandra in love there. That's a really nice reminder. I had totally forgotten. Roy, I'm really sorry. I promised you I would find you the size of an elephant's foot, and I actually haven't done so. So what I'll do, Roy, it's getting a little bit dark now. It's also getting rather chilly. But let me find a nice patch of soft soil, and I'll draw what a large male elephant's footprint will look like, just to give you a rough idea as to just how large their feet truly are. There, shall I redirect slightly? There we go. We've got some elephant tracks, not a large bull. Nevertheless, oh, sorry, Chandra, I haven't taken my foot off the brake, so we're going to rock a bit. There we go. Let me hop out to answer Roy's question. Roy, I really hope that you are still watching. I'm so sorry I forgot to do this properly. Although, to be honest, it's been sort of continuous actual elephant sightings as opposed to stopping for tracks. An elephant track carrying on along what is known as a sandy mitre drain. And you see here, Chandra, this is sort of where you are, roughly. So what we've actually got here is the back foot of a young-ish elephant. So quite either a small female or a small male. And this is the back track, so it's slightly more oval in size, and it forms almost a teardrop shape. And what that does is that shows you the direction that the elephants were walking in, and these tracks are probably from our elephants from earlier. This is, as I said, a small elephant, but for Roy, we're going to start from scratch, and we're actually going to wipe away this track, and I'll draw what an adult male elephant's track is, sort of a rough outline. So a front foot of a male elephant could easily be that large. So essentially I could sit in the middle of a large bull elephant's track and fit right in. If I folded myself up nice and small, I'd probably fit into the track of a bull elephant. That's a big bull. That's a fully grown 30-year-old or larger or older bull. His back track would be slightly smaller and would look something they're quite elongated, so something like that. So there you go, my artistic impression of a very large elephant track. Bigger than your largest dinner plate. Just listening to the sounds of the bush. It's such a beautiful evening. The light is incredible. I hate having to rush, but we do. We do actually have to. Well, we would hate to miss out on the Mother's Day fireside chat. We've got some very special clips prepared for you all. So I hope you're excited, and I hope you've sent through some questions of the different mothers of the animal kingdom. There we go, let me just pull off the road, the vehicle. How's it, how are you? All good, thanks.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you too, man.
Tell me this, do you know about this lion female that's walking around here?
She's gone from where she was this afternoon, but she was around the Ballanice tree. I haven't found her tracks coming out, so she might have gone into that drainage line on the east of Buffelshoek. It's one of the Nkuhuma females, yeah.
Last night I came from that side, I saw a puffer in the road, I got out and she started stalking me.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, luckily I saw her because it was close.
Cool.
Yeah, it was literally 50
Night time's a bit scary.
Yeah.
She's very pregnant. You think she's going to den in that drainage line?
So that's why she's alive.
I think that's why she's doing that.
Well,
Awesome.
all the best, nice seeing you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Lovely to see you.
Bye.
Cheers. I wasn't watching my monitor there, but Chandra, I don't know if you saw the dog that was in the back, or did, sort of. That dog has searched my car before. It's part of a general sort of Sabi Sands policy, not because I'm, just to clarify, not because I'm under any suspicion, just to let you know, it was just a standard search policy. Everybody, you know, we were polygraphed and all part of the making sure to try and clamp down as much as possible on potential poaching incidents. An interesting tale that our friend there just told us, and I feel absolutely terrible because I know he's introduced himself to me. I cannot remember his name. It'll come to me. It will come to me. One of those terrible situations where you know somebody well enough that asking for their name at this point has now become awkward. You know, everybody's been there. Everybody's been in that social situation where your brain just doesn't help you out, doesn't have your back. But an interesting tale he was telling. He said, stop. For those of you who maybe couldn't hear him, or perhaps his accent, South African accent, is a bit difficult for you to understand. He stopped yesterday or last night to look at a puffer in the road, and the Nkuhuma lioness actually stalked him. It's one of the really important things to remember out here, that whilst the lions during the day, I wouldn't say that they're just great big cats that you could go up and cuddle, but they have a natural fear of human beings during the day. But the night time, that just emphasizes what we always say, night is a very different story. And you really do not want to be going on walks through the bush at night. We are not dominant at that time. And especially for her, I think feeling heavily pregnant and not wanting to move as much as necessary, that's probably why she was exhibiting that behavior. We're going to go through a bit of a dip, so I'm going to do it quite quickly. There's a chance we could lose signal. In theory, there's a francolin in my way. Would you like to cross the road? Please, you go right ahead. Off you go. Contact calls. Yes, go on. Off you go. Don't hurry on my account. There we go. Right. Should we try go through that dip again? But fast. Just in case we do lose signal. Now Penny. No, let's go through this dip first. Sorry. Right. Attention span not being what it should be. Track. And you multiply it by 2.5. You will get a rough estimate of the shoulder height of an elephant. And I absolutely had no idea that that was the case, but I find it fascinating, and it does make sense. I mean, everything in all animals has a degree of proportion to it. Just like you can estimate a height of a man or a woman by their tracks and their stride length. So it makes total sense that you would be able to do something similar with elephants. So thank you for that. I didn't know that, but I'm really quite fascinated to hear it. And it's little incredible tidbits like that that make the conversation between us and viewers around the world so incredible. One of the aspects of this particular job that I have enjoyed a tremendous amount is not just teaching, but actually learning from the different viewers. Probably dispose of my hat now, no longer required. The sun is gone, the temperatures are plummeting as we drive along at great speed to race across to Fireside Chat. And each and every dip that we get to, of course, cold air sinks, hot air rises. So every time we go through a drainage line or a drip, dip, oh my goodness. I'm sorry. Apparently speech, my ability to speak is somewhat declined between the space of the sunrise safari and the sunset safari. Every time we go through a dip, the temperature drops probably by about 5 or so, close to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So a noticeable difference. And that is even more pronounced first thing in the morning, which is why if you watch us, if there's no animal to immediately be found, there's a good chance we're going to be hugging the crests, particularly eastern facing crests where we get a little bit of sun to warm us up. Luckily, I wait eagerly in anticipation of the fire that Sam will no doubt have started to heat us up for the Fireside Chat. Oh, we better hurry up, Chandra, we're going to get into trouble. We're very late. We have 4 minutes to make our way. We should be okay. We won't be too bad. I don't think we'll be in too much trouble. And it was definitely worth it just to enjoy those elephant sightings that we had. And just to let you know how that whole saga ended, I finally managed to get away from that young male elephant without him chasing us down the road, and without us having, which is what I really wanted to do, was actually avoid scaring him or shouting at him. I didn't feel as though it was necessary. He was playing, he was being naughty, like a teenager slamming a bedroom door almost. But I didn't want to scare him. I just didn't want him to think that he was going to be able to chase us down the road. So we did manage to slowly inch our way away from him. Not only, of course, is it Mother's Day, but Sheila's right, we've had some extraordinary Mother Day themed sightings, but it is David Attenborough's 90th birthday today. A man who I think all of us inevitably associate with wildlife and wildlife commentary, and such a tremendous amount of his life that has been dedicated to raising awareness and towards conservation itself. A truly extraordinary gentleman, and one for whom I think for many of us is a hero and a man that we aspire to be like. I don't think, however, that I'm ever going to quite manage to mimic his voice. That may be one aspiration that will be beyond my reach, as disappointing as that may seem. But some of my earliest childhood memories of watching documentaries include that incredible David Attenborough voice as he describes where he's standing. I'm standing here in the Great Plains of Africa. So we wish Sir David Attenborough a very, very happy 90th birthday. An extraordinary gentleman. Right, well, we better hope that we don't hit another elephant roadblock along the way back. It seems to have become something of a pattern for the afternoon. Hopefully we can avoid that. And a very happy Mother's Day to Tony's mom, Joyce. We hope you've had a wonderful day and that Tony has spoiled you on this very special day where we show appreciation for the extraordinary force of nature that is a mother of any species and of any kind. So happy Mother's Day, Joyce, and to all the mothers out there. And on that note, it is time for our special Mother's Day themed fireside chat. I'm going to race across there and hand you over to James and Sam, and I'll see you shortly.